Hey everybody, Ruby here, and we're going to talk about masks, and specifically masks at camp. Now, some of you may be like, yo Ruby, I can't understand a word that you're saying. Yep, I think we need to get used to this, because I think the reality of it is, if camp is running program this year, we're going to have masks. So we need to talk about how we have them at camp this summer and into the fall. Now, I want to let you all know that I work at a restaurant part-time, and today was my first day at work, and this was when I started thinking about masks, because for us to interact with customers, we have to wear masks and gloves. Anytime we are talking to customers, taking orders, this is how we look with gloves. If I'm handed cash, I have to change my gloves after I finish handling that cash. Our customers don't even touch our point of sales at all, so the only thing that I'm touching of theirs is a credit card. And after touching that, I use hand sanitizer, right? These are the sort of protocols that restaurants are trying to take to make it really clear that we're trying to be as safe as possible when we're under pandemic protocols. So then you start thinking about, what does this look like at camp? Well, one of the things that I noticed today is I was wearing a bandana mask similar to this. I don't have a cloth mask at my house, but I have a whole lot of bandanas, like I'm guessing a lot of camp directors do. And I had some struggles with my mask, first of all, that I want to talk about. The other thing I noticed was that there are some of my other staff members who were on our team who had the round, kind of like construction style masks, right? And those were issued by the restaurant, things that we had in supply from other work that happens around the restaurant and on the land nearby. And I found that, to me, as a grown adult who understands what's going on, seeing them in those construction masks made me feel a lot more panicked about what was going on in the situation we were in than somebody wearing a goofy cloth mask like this. Whether it was homemade one or not. When I see customers that even drove up that had the round masks on, it almost makes me feel like they are sicker or they are more at risk than folks who are wearing a cloth mask. So I tell you all of this, and none of that's necessarily true. It's just the perception. And I tell you all of this because I think we need to be thinking about the optics of masks at camp and the reality of masks at camp. Here's a big thing. I'm known for having a great smile. I can't show you that right now, right? And I can smile with my eyes all I want. You can tell a difference. Can you? Not really. Between when I smile, you may have seen my mask move, right? But we lose a lot of emotion by not being able to see people's mouths. And we need to understand that if we're welcoming families into camp this summer, whether that's to drop off their kids or to come to family camp or to come to retreats later on in the season, whatever it may look like, that we are likely going to be wearing masks, especially during check-in and check-out, when I have a higher exposure to lots of other populations. And maybe it's not everybody, or maybe it is. And if you haven't thought about what might it be like for your staff to wear masks all day long, or during certain activities, or for nothing else for the couple of hours while check-in is happening, we need to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it today. Whew, I'm going to take this off because that's a lot. Don't worry, I'm going to show you some more masks here in a little bit. But what I want you to understand is, as I started thinking about this, I got really concerned because I don't think we're talking about this conversation at all in camp yet. And so that's why I'm talking about it right now. So settle in, because we're going to, for the next little bit of time, we're going to talk about some things I think we need to be thinking about when it comes to wearing masks at camp. And in case you couldn't understand, I think we will be wearing masks at camp at some point this summer, okay? Be it, again, during check-in, maybe there's certain activities, maybe kids from certain areas, and if you have kids from certain areas who are asking to wear them, wouldn't you just rather have everybody wear them, right? So consider the optics of it. So if you are able to get your hands on surgical masks or N95s, if you're in an area that has experienced any sort of outbreak and any sort of shortage of PPE, folks are likely going to look poorly upon you for having that PPE and not donating it to medical facilities, okay? So we need to consider that. I also think that N95s look scary. I think they look scary. And I think we need to remember that even though we're still a couple months away from kids potentially coming to camp and coming to our programs again, that they may not be going to the grocery store and to the gas station and out and about and seeing this happen, right? I think about in the shift that I did at work today, I saw 0 children.
0 children. So their understanding of the rest of the world wearing masks all the time, even though it's something we as adults are getting more used to, I think it's going to be very scary to children. I think for your returning campers, for them to come into camp and to see staff members wearing masks, I think that's going to be really scary. And it's going to be a big transition and change that we need to think about. So I know some of you may be like, I can't even picture camp with masks. I don't even know if camp's going to happen. I don't think I can talk about this with kids yet. And that's okay. I want to offer you some tools at the end of this video for how you can start talking about it and potentially preparing your campers for the reality that there may be masks required at camp. If kids aren't wearing them, I still think there's going to be time when your staff are wearing them. I think about during health checks, whether it's that person at day camp who's checking temperatures every morning, or who's doing check-in, sign in and out with the parents, or if it's at a resident camp and you have folks who are doing a health check at the gate, or as folks are coming into camp as part of the check-in process. I think at the very least those folks are going to be wearing masks, and I think there could be an argument made for everybody on staff may need to be wearing masks at those times. We also need to think about how we're going to limit exposure to vulnerable populations. And that's a whole other video, right? But wearing masks is one way that we can help prevent the spread of this virus. And I just don't think protocols for wearing masks are going to disappear. I think this is something that we're going to see, especially this summer and maybe more going forward. So, like I demonstrated, it's really hard to show smiles when you're wearing a mask. And I've seen some masks that folks have taken photos of that have smiles on them, right? So that's something to consider. Is there a way to get your staff members' faces, which may sound super creepy, but you can Google images of that. There's also, I've seen images of doctors and folks who are working in hospitals who will be in their full-on suits and they'll have a picture of themselves taped on the front of them. Now, we at camp are probably not going to be in hazmat protocol, hopefully, if we're running camp, but do we print big buttons that have pictures of the staff members? Because I'm finding it is hard to really feel like you're connecting with someone when you can't see this much of their face, okay? So I think at camp, one of our best bets is going to be cloth masks. And I spent my first significant amount of time wearing a homemade mask out of a bandana today, okay? And I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned in doing so. One is that when I talked, my jaw moves and it would pull on my hooks around my ears, and I just was using hair bands and they were kind of tight. And so I had a couple times that I was talking to customers, my mask just fell off. And it was oh gosh, and I'd kind of step away and fix it and then go get some hand sanitizer and then come back and talk to those folks. So I think that we need to make sure that folks are testing out masks and wearing them for a significant period of time, and not just wearing them, because I'd done some just wearing a mask while I'm sitting and watching TV, but talking to folks, moving around, right? And discovering how does that dynamic and that movement, how does that make a difference? And especially talking and trying to give instructions, and specifically when you're trying to project, can you project without opening your mouth as wide? I was thinking about that while I was talking to folks. I was okay, and I need to get your order now. Can I be louder, but also not move my face so much so that things stayed secure? Okay. I also think that we want to think about the different cloth that we might see and what, again, the optics of it. Does it look scary? I think if you have folks that are feeling like they need to be in N95s at camp, I would think about having them wear that and then put a cloth mask over it. And that's really strictly for optics, less about protection and more about optics, because I think those are kind of masks that people are more used to seeing. My dental hygienist at the dentist wears one of those cloth masks anytime she cleans my teeth, right? So those are just things that people are more likely to have seen in the world, and they just don't look as intense in my mind. So I also want you to think about the colors that folks are wearing, because I think it'd be easy to tell our staff, hey, everybody, bring whatever masks you have from home. Okay, and you can bring bandanas, they can be homemade, and while that intention is great, consider that if you were a camper coming in and you saw this, it's time for capture the flag or war or something, right? Ideally, I want this to be didn't do a very good job adjusting, right? So even a camo bandana, which is super cool wearing camo, think about the optics of that. Welcome to camp. Welcome to camp, all right? Think about that. I have this bandana that I got at a conference, so I'm sure there's some conference sponsor who's going to be kind of pumped to see this one.
Camp is my happy place. I like this one. Here's the thing I don't like about it. The colors. It looks kind of bloody. And we definitely don't want to think about exhibiting blood right now. So, even though I love this logo and the message here, I want to think about the color that it's on.
Right? And when folks made that, there was no way that they could have known that this was what the situation we were going to find ourselves in.
I think some people have talked about using
buffs in that same like bandana fold, and it's a possibility. They're a little thin, I think. So with a buff, you're looking at, if you do kind of this traditional bandana fold for your cloth mask, you may not want to attempt it with the buff and just like have the buff over your face, just like so. But even then, if I do this, what do people think of? They think of like bank robbers, right? So I don't know that this is actually an any more comforting situation, okay? So again, this is why I think cloth masks kind of made a specific way is going to serve you well. A couple of cool ones that I have sitting around my house that I would totally consider wearing with kids this summer, as well as in my restaurant work, working with the general public. And these all came fresh out of my closet, so they're pretty clean. I think anything with characters can be cool.
Either. Right? These are frogs.
I had one on today that had monkeys on it. I liked that. I got a couple compliments on it. Also, just like patterns that are colorful. Because the only thing I don't like about the frogs is that it's on a black one, so it automatically looks kind of ninja-esque, right? So like this one is one I like a lot. I foresee myself using a fair amount. Purple, kind of harmless, right? Can't really be mistaken for something interpreted poorly. It's pretty non-threatening. Here's another one that I think is real cool, and if you have ever thought about, especially if you own a property or if you're near a property and you've ever thought about doing a map, this could be a great year to give all your staff
a topographic map of your space, right? Teaching tool and like interesting.
I don't know, something to think about, okay? Think about different colors and the effects that they have. Right? What message are you sending with your masks? And I think that you want to take a little time, maybe even pull your staff, of what do you want the mask uniform to be at camp this summer? And folks can start working on that sooner rather than later. Okay? Here's something else to think about. I'll go back to my topographic masks. That with masks, we want to be encouraging our staff
to be practicing with them now. Okay? Taking them on and off. Making sure that their straps aren't doing that and folding their ear over, because they will fall over. If there's somebody that wears glasses, here's the problem with that. Right? So how are you going to make it so your glasses don't fog up while you're wearing masks? Right? Okay? Have them practice talking. Have them practice projecting. Have them practice enunciating. Slowing down when they talk. Right? Being expressive with your eyes. These are all skills that we're going to have to practice for this summer. I would encourage you to have some sort of guideline that is everyone wears masks at certain times for check-in and check-out. I think that it's not unlikely that that's going to be a good idea. Maybe not just your medical staff. Maybe it's everybody comes in. I'm not saying you have to do this, and I'm not saying that nobody can use N95s because every camp is different. I just want you to think about the choices that you're making before you start slapping masks on people, okay?
So think about what policies you're going to have about when to wear masks, what activities, all that sort of stuff. Also, like, what training are you providing your staff on what happens if their mask falls off? What do they need to do? How do they adjust it? Do they need to wash their hands before they go back to the program area? Is there other PPE that they're expected to wear, like gloves? And how often do they change that? I also think about how are you going to lead programs with masks? Are there programs that you can go ahead and incorporate masks into? Maybe there's already, like, if you do a color war that you may already do, everybody decks out in colors. Well, maybe you tell your campers they need to have 4 bandanas of the different colors that they might be, especially if they're on a team they don't know what color they're going to be, right? What are the rules for kids? Are they different, or campers and participants? Are they any different from your staff? What are your rules for visitors? What are your rules for other attendees and folks on camp? I think that there's some cool ways that we can make masks cool for camp. All right. So think about how maybe everybody in a certain cabin or a certain unit or a certain age group or a certain, just like group that travels together, whatever you call those, maybe they all have a specific color of mask that they wear or a certain pattern. Maybe this is something that your staff are going ahead to make. Or maybe you're even going ahead and telling your campers, this is going to come to camp with you this summer. This is going to be on your packing list. I'm guessing there's going to be some specific things that if we open camp, we're going to be asking for some specific things to come this year to camp that maybe have never come before. Does everybody need to try to bring their own personal hand sanitizer, right? And again, that's a whole other video, but a mask is likely going to be something we want to see, and if they're coming to residential camp and they're staying for several weeks, they may need to bring more than one mask. So do you get some camp branded fabric printed up? Do you get some camp branded masks made and send those out to campers? Do you get the fabric branded and then send them the materials to make that as a virtual camp or touch point or preparation before camp? Obviously, if you do that, you're going to want to have some ready-made ones ready to go for the folks who just didn't get around to do it or don't have the other necessary supplies to do so. I think about, what if we had all of our campers, if this would work for your camp, what if we had all of our campers make 2 masks? They make one for themselves and they make one for an adult. And the adult one they go ahead and send to camp. And think about how you want to do that, postage paid, whatever that looks like. And then when they come to camp, that whatever session they come to camp, one of the adults is wearing their mask, right, that they made. And so the whole time they're coming into opening day, they're looking for where that mask is. It makes them less scary. It makes it more approachable. It makes it something interesting and cool. All right. And I think about, some of you might be saying, well, I could ask my campers to do this, but what if we get all these masks that we don't end up using because we don't have camp, or all of a sudden we don't need them? Awesome. You can donate them to medical facilities nearby, and that's a great PR opportunity. Things made by kids, donated by the camp, like, that's golden. It's the kind of news we need right now. Right? So in summary, masks, I think, are going to be at camp this summer in some way, shape, or form. And if you haven't talked about with your team what that's going to look like, how extensive or not, or if we're mandated to have them extensively or not, when are there times that you're going to require your staff to wear masks? Are there times you're going to require other folks who come on camp property to wear masks? If folks show up and they don't have them, what are you going to put on them if that's the rule? Think about the optics. Think about the color choices. Think about ways that you can create that warm smile and friendly feeling that's a lot harder to translate when you are having your mouth covered in a mask over your face. Okay? Tell your staff now to begin practicing, to begin giving speeches with masks, being on video calls with masks, and have them practice that, because it is a skill. And the first time that they wear a mask for an extended period of time and they try to teach and hold stuff in their hands, they are going to struggle. There are going to be things that don't go well. Something's not going to be tight enough. Their hair is going to get caught up. It's going to fall over. They're going to be like, oh, I want to drink some water. Do I have to wash my hands? I'm going to drink some water, right? Like, there's so many things that we need to make sure we're practicing. Maybe you encourage your staff to wear a mask all day one particular day. But again, make sure they're getting some talking time in as well. I think right now we have a real opportunity as camps to be a community leader in encouraging folks to wear camps. I know in Canada there is some discussion of the government really pleading with folks, asking folks to everybody wear masks, because there's also an element of equity, right? So if the only people that are wearing masks are the people that are sick, that just puts a big letter on them that's like, hey, I have coronavirus, or I'm sick, like, don't come near me. And that may lead some folks who have to go out to get shamed or hurt or yelled at or treated poorly. But if we all wear masks, we're all working together and teaching folks about doing what we can for the public health. I think if a camper is coming to camp and it's really the first time that they've had to wear a mask, that we're going to have a lot of struggles. And so we need to be preparing our parents that this is a real possibility. And again, I don't think that you have to do this today. I think this is something that could be talked about a month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks out from camp. But if you don't have a plan for it, which I haven't heard a lot of camps talking about it yet, then I think it's time to start having the conversation of what will that look like? What are your camp directors going to do to model great behavior? You better be perfect with a mask by the time that your staff are arriving. So let's make sure we're practicing that too. I think about even if you go to virtual camp, I think you could still have campers show off their masks because even if they make them in preparation for coming to camp and they don't come to camp and you pivot to virtual camp, I think they can still show them off. It doesn't mean they have to wear them the whole call, but they can do some show and tell or talk about them or just have that moment of like, hey, like let's show everybody how we're safe when we go out and about, and we provide that education moment for them in case their parents are struggling with, telling their kid to wear a mask and the kid's like, I don't want to, right? Everything sounds cooler when it comes from a 19-year-old camp counselor or even a camp director who they really admire. So I think we can help parents in this way. All right. That was a lot, but thank you for listening about masks. I'd love to hear what cool solutions and creative ideas you're coming with. Feel free to tag me at Women in Camping to share about that. Feel free to talk about it on the Slack group. And if you haven't heard, there's a great daily digest newsletter that's coming out from Go Camp Pro, and where you get a curated list of the most up-to-date conversation and questions and things that are happening within the industry and talking about and directly related to the camp industry and coronavirus. Thank you all so much for everything you do. I'm Ruby from Ruby Outdoors. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. See you, my friends.